Ciao Andrea.
Ciao, Veronica, giusto?
Sì, sono io, adesso cambio il nome.
Ok, no, perché ho attaccato, ho sentito solo un pezzettino del ciao, non ero ancora con l'audio. Sono in situazione centrale,
Sei in stazione centrale?
Milano.
Ok.
E poi io ci sciopero. E quindi devo venire un po' prima per tutti in macchina per rifarti in casti con le ringhe. Vabbè.
Okay. Hello,
Hello.
good afternoon.
I was just telling to Veronica that I am now at the central station. I have to take the train at 17, 15 past 17, but I will reach the mobile, so I have the possibility to station. But at 5, I will reach.
Okay, now we're waiting for Serena,
Yeah.
Gabriele, and then we can start. Today we have the agenda proposed by Ricardo for work package 5, as agreed during last summer. So these are the plans for today.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of minutes.
Yeah, maybe
Also,
just
like-
as an extra point, then I don't know, I forgot, sorry, Veronica, to write, but if we can have as an AOB the quick discussion on the possible webinar to be organized in November about the Atlas, since I, as agreed last time, on Thursday, I have this like draft agenda that we can maybe discuss, and so we can, see a little bit like if we can agree in principle on the structure of this webinar. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello,
Andrea.
hi everyone. Good afternoon. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, another point, this morning we received a message from an expert from Austria stating that so we are starting a new work item from FC DID, but is stating that there could be some copyright issues with his company. I started to verify this with Stefan. He asked the commission. The commission said that there was a long history behind, but there should be no problem. But this can produce some delay. Maybe we can just talk a couple of minutes and see if we can maybe reach out to the commission on this topic. And if we are going to have the workshop sooner or later, this can be a topic.
Okay, and just to add another information, this is Mark Sabaudello, who is one of the experts funded by this project. Will Serena join the meeting?
Yes, I think she will.
She's still
follow
in a
soon.
task force rolling plan, I think.
Yes.
But she will come in some moments when the meeting is over. But we can start. She will join.
Yes.
Okay.
I connected this morning, but not this afternoon. If the task force are this time.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah,
Can
that's a bit much.
Is it good?
We can hear you now, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Apologies for that.
No worries.
Okay, so I guess that we are ready to start. And Ricardo, the floor is yours because
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Veronica. So I will share my screen if I can. I'm sorry.
Yes, you can proceed.
My computer died last Friday, and I have a new one, and I'm still going around about it.
I can share.
No, I can
Okay.
I think you can. Please tell me if you can see it now.
Yes, now, yes.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, perfect. So let's go. What brings us today here is to discuss the BlockStand facility and community sustainability plan. In that regard, we had a deliverable, which is deliverable 5.3, that was published back in May this year. Hopefully, because what we'll be discussing is taken out of that document. So hopefully you had the opportunity of reading it, and I think the best way in order to do that, I prepared an agenda, since I haven't received any comments on the agenda. Let me put it on full screen, perhaps. Since I haven't received any comments on the agenda, I imagine this is okay with you. So we will go over the review of current operations and the features and the assets of the facility. Then we'll go about the strategic goals and value proposition. Afterwards, the financial and governance strategies. The technology here is a strong word to put here, but basically the platforms and tools, and finalizing with trying to end this 90-minute session with some sort of a plan in order to proceed. So what's in question here is what will happen of the facility, the website, and the features that are there after the completion of the project, of the funding. So let's just a reminder of our stakeholders map, who we intend and who do we work for. Policymakers, in this case, the European Commission, the blockchain initiatives, European Blockchain Partnership, even if this has migrated to be the European Association, the EU Blockchain Observatory and Forum, which is at this time as closed in May this year, in ATPA. And then we have the block with the blockchain standardization bodies and experts, European and international STOs, national standards bodies from the EU member states, and other standardization bodies. Then we have the industry, of course, associations and coalitions, but also SMEs. I would include here also companies in general. And the research and innovation community and other EU-funded projects, the research institutions, the EU-funded projects. The current BlockStand facility assets are the repository of blockchain standardization activities, the stakeholders forum, the expert success story, so the Europe blockchain leadership outlook, and the blockchain standardization roadmap. I haven't included here everything that is related to the atlas and other feature. I wouldn't call it features, right? I would call reports and deliverables that we have on the facility. But I'm happy to discuss. I concentrated on these four. If you read through the document, I actually concentrated on the first two. But of course, that's also the point of us discussing this to understand which are the assets and the underlying value that they can provide in the future endeavor for the continuation of BlockStand. Let's put it like this for now, and let's move forward. So this is not intended to be a presentation, right? This is intended to be some sort of work session, and hope I'm happy to see that all the partners are represented here, and I think that we could start with some questions, or already like outlined on the agenda, understanding what's the current status of the features on the facility, and understand a little bit, or try to understand and discuss the value of that in the context of moving forward past the EU-funded timeline. So I put here a couple of questions, and the idea was to have your comments, and to have your vision from your respective institutions. Already, perhaps without going immediately onto this, let me ask you a question already. Is your desire, or do you see your involvement in the project after the completion of the funding period? I would like to open the floor with that. Who wants to go first?
Ricardo, can you a bit clarify the question? Should we speak of which assets we want to use?
Not necessarily. I wanted to actually already start from this very general question. So, are you motivated to actually embark after the completion of the project, after the completion of the funding periods, into a continuation of the project?
So I think in very generic terms, for sure, yes. And I do hope it's yes for everyone.
I hope it's not a yes or no answers, because so you see, yes, and why?
Okay, so I think for us, one thing, it's about our organizational positioning in DLT and blockchain standardization. On the other hand, it's also expertise of standardization, blockchain standardization experts, from which we are learning as well. So it's kind of by default a learning path for the staff, and we value this a lot. But it's also for our members as a kind of service to have them engaging with the experts, with the community or forum that we create. On the other hand, it's also for many companies the value of repository, for example, but also the other reports that we would like to sustain and keep available. It of course depends a lot on type of companies, but I think for some of them also, Atlas and some other things can be useful. And finally, I think it's also like doors to work also with other research projects and other initiatives of EU and of R&D community. So we created and facilitated a lot of new connections through the tasks we had, especially in working package 2. So I think for us it's also organizationally very valuable to continue collaboration with Target.
Okay.
Colleagues have something to say.
Thank you, Justina. That's very clear.
Yeah, especially since we got very valuable inputs during the interviews that we run within the questionnaire and for the chapter that we wrote for the atlas. We can also use some of the feedback that also the experts provided to indeed to create more connection with the R&D community. Yes.
So you see it as a way to leverage your connection to, because here is, of course, it's from each partner's perspective, right? We are in a way putting our cards on the table and saying how this is important for each of our organizations. So to leverage the connection with R&D and also to provide as a service to your members. Okay, and the other partners?
Yeah, I mean, I can say on our side from SBS, it's part of what, in a way, of what Serena said, like what we have found out about our community, particularly with the work of the Atlas, with the work that preceded it in terms of the building and seeing the answers to the questionnaire. So it's to have a better gauge and a better grasp of what the needs are for SMEs, like linked to blockchain, both in terms of providers and users. So definitely a clearer picture that we might not have had before. So that is obviously a process to keep engaging with the community. And then obviously the creation of the contacts and the pool of experts that actually will help us going forward in terms of building a network, also in light of the fact that every year we have annual applications for experts to participate in technical work. And obviously JTC 19 at European level and 307 at ISO level are extremely valuable fora where we already nominate experts, but obviously we can have an even stronger and more grounded participation.
Thank you, Andrea. So identified needs of the industry, tap into the pool of experts in order to feed future applications for technical work.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Uninfo?
Applications, but also applications coming from the same experts. Of course, it will be important for them to ensure continuity and sustainable work with them. And I think we can also, a very valuable resource for us are also all the experts that we had to reject and who actually asked us to help them in acquiring some skills in digitalization.
Okay, thank you, Serena. Uninfo?
Uninfo, it's a bit different, I think, because Uninfo is already involved in standardization directly, having the secretary of JTC 19. We have seen for sure a lot of new activities thanks to BlockStand. So we consider that the impact is positive. It's true that, of course, there is also the EIDAS that is pushing, but without funding, probably would have been more difficult to have experts involved. And the new work is not just about EIDAS, about the digitalization. So
Thank you for
The
that,
interest
Andrea.
could be to ensure that there is more participation in the future.
Thank you for that, Andrea. What we are looking here is to understand. Please keep this in mind. I think that there's no point on going back on the merits of BlockStand as a EU-funded project. The question was more in the sense of understanding if after that EU-funded period, if for your organizations there were clear motivations to pursue and to engage. So I want to understand, because the perspective of UNIFO is a little bit different, exactly. So that's more where I wanted to understand. How do you see that in a very general?
I can say that it
terms.
is but the fact that work started means that for UNIFO is important, and of course UNIFO will continue to be secretariat of JTC 19, and the effects of BlockStand will continue after the closure, because having more involvement create a sort of let's say multiplier effect, and so I believe that so given that UNIFO, of course, will continue to do this work, and if other and can also leverage on the outcome of BlockStand to ensure that there is more participation in the future.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have a national mirror committee who has the responsibility of this project as well. So in the future, this mirror committee will be able to manage all the results and use for the future activities in this field.
Okay. 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 From our side, because from our side, definitely we see a value, and of course we wrote the deliverable. So specifically the tools that we see that would, in a past EU funded period, or after that period, would be the repository, and that technical forum that, with the right combination of stakeholders, could definitely be useful for the industry, and specifically for the SMEs that don't have that many resources in terms of having dedicated resources for standardization, to actually serve as kind of orientation and guidelines. So that is specifically from the NATO perspective, is those two tools. And why those two tools? Because the others, in a way, they would require a deeper engagement, and are more intensive in terms of resources to be able to be produced and updated. However, I think, for instance, in thinking of the first objective of one of the main objectives of BlockStand, to provide information, to provide insights to the rolling plan, to the ICT rolling plan, and that to have it to keep it in the form of a report would be, if it fell only on the partners, it would be, I would say, public-wise, less interesting for us in NATPA's perspective. Of course, it's important for the Commission. It's important for organizations like UNINFO or SPS that are more on the standard setting or the technical work, but perhaps less interesting from our perspective. So I wanted to provide that. Since we already discussed that on a little bit, I wanted to get back to where I was before. Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So in terms, I outlined here these three questions that are mainly concerning the repository. The repository KPIs. So in terms of visits, activity, retention, or time spent and I'm saying this from a public perspective. So the ones that are visiting the facility. Do we have any information on that? And what should we target or we envision for the future for this to gain traction and produce the impact that we hope for?
I mean, regarding the repository, we know some of the KPIs, of course, given that's a website. So of course we can see the activity there, the visits, and maybe some other indicators. Sorry?
How many?
I don't have the data at hand, but of course we can check. Yeah, we are tracking more or less the other KPIs for the overall website and the facility as a whole, but we can also see the specifics of the repository. And we can see a bit more which one would be the most relevant, but I would say visit and activity would be the best one. I already see the third question, which is the optimization simplification of suggesting new activities. For this, we actually already have the possibility for external people, experts, to submit new standards. So this would be mostly to find people that have actually the willingness to provide updates to the repository, but otherwise the process can be streamlined through basic forms which are already available. And for us would be just to check if the provided details are correct, just because otherwise it would be quite problematic.
Okay. I mentioned
on the plan and updates of the repository. I mean, UNINFO has done a great work also in updating the repository, but I don't know how much it can be improved in the future after the end of the project.
Yeah, and if I may add, the only action we can make to update this repository is to check the ongoing activities in the identified technical committees and verify if it is already embedded in our repository, if all the work items are already there, or otherwise identify the missing ones and add to the repository. But this is not so this is if I describe it as static situation, it's not so dynamic.
I agree.
Yeah.
But updating, Veronica, just so I understand, updating the repository as it is now being done manually, right?
Yeah. Yes. I have to check one by one work item. Yes.
So we have 100 and something, 120.
Yes, I know. But Yeah, I have no other ways to update because I have to check all the catalog of ISO, SEN, IEEE, and all the other organization identified and verify and control that everything is aligned.
Okay. Let me put that.
Not so funny, but
Let me put that as a challenge. Right.
I just
No.
wanted to add something on this. So I think that we can also enrich a bit the repository, adding some information as it's done for the rolling plan. Also adding maybe if it's useful, but I think it is some information on current activities, the state of the art on some working groups, relevant information on the work performed within some working groups or technical committees. I mean, to create a bit of more descriptive content.
Kind of a log, right? Of key developments. Something
Yeah, key developments and also a brief explanation on what each working group does, main topics, trends, if we want to create something that goes beyond the repository itself.
May I add a question?
beyond the repository itself. Yeah, okay. But do you see what you're saying eventually on a card of the initiative? So of the activity, there's activity going on IEEE or JTC 19 regarding this work item, and your idea, I think it was Serena that suggested. I don't see it because I have the presenting mode, was to put kind of a log of developments, eventually chronological. Is it what was?
Yeah, it can be an idea, yes, to explain a bit what is happening in the current landscape, to create a bit more like updates.
It would be on the repository. Because
not on the repository, but something like strictly linked to the repository, in my opinion. Probably same web page, but some displayed in bits.
Okay.
For me, it's not so easy to understand this kind of information to be added because, as you know, we can distribute and disseminate only publicly information. So I don't know which kind of information would you like to share?
I don't know, probably something that is still public or some updates coming from our experts that they want to share. We can decide what we want to.
Okay. From inputs from funded expert of this project, we can yes, discuss. But it is difficult to share other information from the standardization activities itself, because as you know, we are dealing with confidential information. And so, yes, we have to check this kind of level of information to be shared.
Okay, so I noted down the eventually more details, more information on the cards, or connected to the cards, linked to the cards. And speaking in terms of cards, because we right now it's kind of the interface that we have. And for instance, I remember that we wrote it down in terms of sharing in terms of sharing capabilities. This is a question mainly to Gabriel. Sharing, is it possible to share those cards on social media, blog posts?
Yes, I think it's possible. And also, honestly, with the adequate procedure, I mean, we can also embed the repository in other pages or in future projects that could be interested, or websites that can be interested to keep it.
Yes, that we can do through an iframe. That's not hard to do. Because I don't know that the tool itself was mainly one specific card that wants to be mentioned, because that we could mention writing on something regarding the EIDAS, for example, and going to search for the ones that are related to that, and putting the 3 cards there in a good looking way that can be shared on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on different platforms. So search and share kind of thing. Okay.
I think that's a very good idea. I think it will really help if we can identify some of the main standards, and we can share it, create also more engagement with the repository and such.
Okay. Okay. I think we all and let me. I think I wanted to close the repository part, or at least this step, understanding that all 4 of us think that the repository is important, right? If there is
Definitely.
Yes, I think it's one of the most out there assets that we have. Because I mean,
Serena?
Yeah, of course. Yes, yes.
I just wanted to hear for the record. Okay. Moving on to the another asset, the stakeholders forum. So not necessarily exactly the same questions, but because the stakeholders forum, what we currently have, and I already shared my views on that, and I don't see a lot of changes in that stakeholders forum. So I have here a couple of questions. How are we tracking the engagement of different stakeholders group within the forum? But from what I see, there's only one comment in the forum. How do we measure the forum's success in facilitating collaboration? How to leverage traction? And what is the return on investment or benefits of participating in the forum? I would like to kick off with.
It's wider than forum. It's generally BlockStand community that we created, because we have many entry points. We have advisory board, we have experts in the forum, we have TCB, and we have, well, experts in a wide sense. So for me, the main added value here is that what we created under BlockStand is a community of people interested in blockchain standardization that is very unique, very niche, does not exist so much elsewhere. So
Sure.
it should be maintained as a kind of wider community of BlockStand.
Okay. The question for me is, in as it is in terms of interface, it's not interesting. There's no traction. There's no traction. I know that it directs to your blockchain DLT focus group. And I think we should. I understand the goal, Justina. The question about identifying experts, future experts, people that want to engage in DLT standardization activities. That's the goal, right? That's the aim. The idea with the stakeholders forum would be to provide kind of this platform that they could eventually discuss. I think with the numbers that we have right now, a WhatsApp group would be perhaps the best interface for that. This is speaking honestly about that. So my question is, do you see it the same way, or it's a tool that would allow for communication? It's for communicate to leverage identifying new experts. How do you see it? If it's for that, I think that the tool is not adapted for that. And I think if it's something where we want to, and we see from our experience as well in ATPA, and we have a lot of groups, and we see the efforts that need to be made to actually engage in having people posting and writing and commenting and all of that. So how do you see it?
Well, honestly, on the part on engagement and more on the technical part of the forum, as we have seen, we have the groups, we also have the internal ones for experts, and even if they are paid, they do not engage between themselves a lot. So even for those that are paid, it's quite difficult to really guide these kind of activities. But the infrastructure as a whole, we can see it for the focus group engagements when we have activities such as events, or even with the TCB online platform for the event, for the internal meeting, it is followed. So we cannot expect experts or other stakeholders to be too much engaged or to take a lot of time to follow all the things or to update each other, message.
But they spend time on LinkedIn. Gabriel.
Sorry?
They spend time on LinkedIn.
This is on LinkedIn?
No. I'm putting out there the question. They spend time on LinkedIn. So they like to share, they like to connect, they like to post, they like to like everybody, like any other professional, right? The difference is we don't have the same scale, we don't have the same tool, and it requires a lot of effort to actually spark that engagement.
Yes.
So if it's a question of mobilizing for different events, having identified, perhaps there's a better way, not a forum, but a better way. So that's what we are trying to discuss here, right? After the completion of the project, now we are being paid to actually deliver that. We engage on that. So we are trying to mobilize that. But we see that in terms of resources, it will be hard to have to spark what we want to spark in a forum. So if it's for identifying experts, perhaps there's a better way to communicate with them from different parts individually, the partners individuals benefiting Digital SME, in ATPA, SBS, Uninfo, there's a better way. There's a better way to do that, and with less resources, if it's for that purpose, and not thinking it as a forum.
I fully agree, especially on the part of the forum and on the point on, for instance, LinkedIn. I think we would have much more chances to have people really engaged there. As I see many posts from people directly, experts in the committees, or even sharing posts and comments on blockchain as a whole, even standardization of the latent.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I agree. What's Veronica, Andrea?
Yeah.
There's no hiding from this meeting.
No. I have our position. This topic is difficult. I have to exchange a couple of thoughts with our responsible, and if you agree, we can send you our position later on.
Oh, okay. Okay, Andrea.
I don't know if okay, Andrea Caccia.
Andrea Raffaelli.
Okay.
I imagine Andrea Caccia will have the same position.
Yeah, more or less, yes.
I mean, honestly, for us, it's not been, I have to be very honest, an area of primary engagement. Once, to be honest, we saw that there was not a lot of traction. We have, personally, I haven't like really participated or engaged in the forum. So I think that the questions that you're posing are quite valid in terms of what the effective like benefits of maintaining these structures are. I think there's no way around the fact that it hasn't really worked and there has been no breakthrough on with this tool. It's pretty obvious.
Okay. That leaves us with the possibility. Would you say, for instance, I like the Gabriele's comment on LinkedIn. I haven't thought of that. LinkedIn itself being our stakeholders platform, and because everyone is there, and there's the groups eventually, if it gained traction enough on the main discussions, the possibility of creating subgroups on LinkedIn is also possible. So as a group, as a company, as an organization, that would be less, I would say, less of a hassle to actually to manage than to trying to set up something either through a third party or develop something or here, and that would be complicated. But that brings us to the question of trying to find, but that's perhaps a question for a next workshop, trying to find a solution to continue to identify. LinkedIn can do that, yes, but eventually other solution or other feature that would help us leverage the identification of new experts. So an idea to keep there. This is being recorded, but I still love to do my event. Okay.
I mean, I don't know in terms of events, because to be honest, and we were gonna talk about it later, like my idea for the this webinar to be had had a little bit of a different scope, but obviously if we think that it can be of some use, we can try and incorporate this this aspect as well. But it's something that we can discuss later in case of like bringing an event. But for the rest, I mean, I think that it's pretty obvious that we have to look for something else, for a different structure, because the current one hasn't worked.
So does anyone wants to say something about the two other assets that we have currently on the facility? So the expert success stories. I know that Digital SME is very attached to this part. I understand what one's doing that, and the blockchain standardization roadmap.
I would say it's not Digital SME attached to this part. This is one of the key purposes of the project, so it would be just wrong not to be proud of it and not to think this as sustainability path, because what Commission sees as the main added value from BlockStand is exactly support to the experts and the work done by the experts, and that's, I think, is really clear from Joachim, from Jose Manuel inputs. They always focus mostly on, this is what experts can do and this is what we need from experts. So we have to make sure that this somehow lives after the project as an idea of what have we done and what similar initiatives can do. So now there is a cyber stand that starts on the same kind of path with a similar idea. There is stand ICT that will continue, and there might be more. There might be some in AI and so on. We will see how these things go. So this has to stand as a kind of lighthouse for these other projects, that this is the way for experts to work, and this is what experts can do. So for me, saving these success stories, and I think now we will have even much more with the upcoming deliverables, because some experts are in the second part of their work, some are getting close to the end. And I think not showing this and not sustaining this would be a really big loss for the project, and losing one of the main ideas of the project. It does not require so much effort, so we are happy to sustain this, and we are happy to follow up with experts, and I'm sure both us and SBS will continue to work at least with some of them through anyway support, funding, and other standardization activities. So in the future, I'm happy to update that if from this work something comes up. And we could also do something similar what we did with repository. We could create a form where experts who are proud of their work and who want to get visibility could fill it in and kind of propose the stories themselves. So that would be even less work. It would be for us to double check, and us as Digital SME, we are also happy to do so. That's also in line with Commission's line on digital sovereignty, of course, and with Commission's idea to promote European experts in leadership positions. So the more of such work our experts will do in the future, the better it also is for this section, I would say, and also for the Commission's goals.
And this also maybe will encourage other people which are not really into standardization to get at least in touch with us. Of course, we will not have the budget to sustain their efforts, but if they're interested, I mean, we can provide guidance, we can create links between previous experts and these new ones. Yeah. And I mean, the budget will not be available to fund their activities, but maybe we can create continuous engagement towards standardization.
Also with the EMB members, because some of them also volunteer to provide guidance to experts or.
Okay, I agree with you. I think it's an important part is to provide, to empower. That's what's underlying BlockStand, empower the standardization experts. What I'm questioning more is the format, and you've provided some tips on eventually how could we change this into a format that would would make the experts interact and interested in actually updating their success stories. I think we could potentially even do kind of a ranking of some sort, or think of some ideas to put there in terms of the success stories. What it's now is basically it's a report, right? Because that feature, it's not actually an interactive one. It's a report that is produced, is the success cases outlook, right? Or standardization outlook. I don't know exactly the
Leadership outlook, yes.
of the deliverable, right? So in the shape, in the format of a report itself, it's that what I'm questioning. So
Disconnected, no?
So yeah, for the first one,
1 minute without hearing you.
no worries.
So we were talking all together, so it couldn't be heard.
Okay.
So you're talking about the first deliverable, no?
Yes.
The deliverable, and we are also providing some input information on the profiles of the experts on the web page, and also in the report we also wrote some information also on the profiles. Of course, that was written for the first year when nobody had finalized their work. So the second one, which will be delivered by the end of the project, so in April, will be way different. We can of course create a more interactive resource, also with some news, and also from hearing directly from the experts, because we have many success stories now, for instance, from Luisa and all the people that actually submitted their proposal to different working groups and technical committees. So the first one was not definitive, of course, so it cannot be taken as a benchmark for the next one.
But we also have experts profiles on the website, so this is perhaps the type of resource you want to keep. It's not just a report. We also have their stories or what we are working on in the website, and what we are working on now, step by step, is being transformed what we have achieved through this work. And that's already there now, but it's more still what we are about to do, since we have not finished. But it's there, and this is the part of the website, and we think that we probably want to maintain.
Yeah, and also some of them, they also wrote some articles, blog posts, which are always related to their work. So in this case, we can also create a connection with the other resources already available on the website.
Okay. I agree on the importance of having, of course, the experts. We are trying to leverage, empower, give visibility, amplify their work. What I was questioning was, and because the question was on the current developments, I've seen that you've updated or about to upload that to publish the more stories on or more profiles on the experts. Okay, it's a question of understanding what type of what type of feature it could turn into in order to definitely achieve those goals of visibility, amplifying their stories. If it's static, again, it's a tool to be it's a feature to be updated, to be then if but okay, on my side, it's fine. I think it's important to think about that. And it can also connect to the part that we were discussing about to how to identify new experts. If we do something right on that front, on that end, definitely that can be also leveraging new experts engagement.
When I think we have important part on reports, but I agree with you what you said in the beginning very rightly. We probably cannot invest into really updating them. So be it standardization atlas, be it roadmap. But I still think that we need to dedicate a small part of final sustainability strategy to say how at least us and perhaps a niche amount of a few other organizations will use it after the project, because we will. And I think that's also important that Commission knows that this is not fully forgotten. So we might not update it, but for still a few years after, we might act upon it. And we as Digital SME will act upon it, but I'm sure that you as NADBA will act upon the roadmap you produce, because this is very linked to your work and work of other working groups that you have, not only on standards, right? So yes, it's perhaps not the business plan part, but it's still the part that we need to point Commission to the fact that this is useful, and there will be communities working on that, delivering on that. And that this is a guidance document for us to create and shape activities around it in the next years. And I guess that for most of the partners it will be the case. So it would be also nice that we include a few lines on it.
Okay. Very well. Veronica, Andrea, on this part?
Just move it to the train, by the way. Sorry.
Andrea, Raffaele?
Yes.
On the other features that were presented, the expert success story, blockchain standardization roadmap, the atlas.
I mean, on our part, yeah, the atlas and the success stories was basically the centerpiece of this idea that I hope soon I'll be able to show in terms of the workshop, in terms of the webinar, I mean. So those were the two main areas on which we particularly wanted to focus, also to highlight, again, the sustainability of the project and the fact that something remains after this period of financing, to show that there is a long-term growth and like a long-lasting effect. So those were the two main areas that we're looking to pursue.
Veronica?
Sorry, I'm here now. Okay. For sure, repository and blockchain standardization roadmap are the areas more more focused on our activity. So yes, these are our topics.
Okay. So, okay. I wanted to now. In terms of the value proposition. You have to speed up a little bit because I have 25 minutes remaining. Again, I wanted to ask after the completion, and keep reminding that because it's important to put after the completion of the funding period, is the current strategic goals align with the stakeholders' needs? And which stakeholders? Who wants to go first?
Sorry, Ricardo, just to be a bit more specific, do you mean the strategic goals that we have for BlockStand, which are to represent you interested in values in standardization?
The strategic goals for after the EU funded period are aligned with the stakeholders' needs. So, for instance, let's take one group of the stakeholders. Let's take, because we already discussed extensively on the experts, let's focus, for example, on the national standardization bodies. Okay? Are the goals that we want to achieve align with what the national standardization bodies could beneficiate from BlockStand? From BlockStand's continuation, let's say like this. What are we proposing to national standardization bodies after the
maintaining the current results of this project? Because if these all the inputs which are yes, all the BlockStand inputs elaborated by the technical committees will be published as standards, for instance. So afterwards, the national bodies will be in charge to maintain these deliverables. From a practical point of view. But everything developed in this project will be delivered to JTC 19 or ISO TC 307, and maybe in other technical committees. So all the inputs will be transferred into a standard, into a published deliverable. So afterwards, they will be maintained for the future.
Okay. So, and Veronica, after the funding period is over, and there is no, or at least not at the cadency that we have now. So without the deliverables, because we can do that. Yeah. Basically sending a WeTransfer with the deliverables that they can use, and they can, of course, they will be useful for developing standards. That's not the question is, how could a future partnership of the partners of BlockStand and in a continuating the activity, how could they provide value to the national standardization bodies? And your view here
keep continuing
is very important.
Yes, it's difficult. Keep continuing participating and contributing to the activities, disseminating these results. Be part available to discuss and to disseminate these kind of documents.
So you see eventually BlockStand as an amplifier of the work that is being done by the national standardization bodies.
Yeah, because the national standardization bodies
Would they can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Would they be available to contribute to BlockStand? Contribute financially with some resources.
Because BlockStand proposed some piece of works, and then national bodies accepted this kind of work. So this is a bilateral supporting. An input from BlockStand without the support of national standards cannot be transformed into a deliverable.
Okay.
It needs an input, a contribution. So I don't know how to explain.
Okay, so thank you, Veronica. Thank you, Veronica. I wanted to understand that. Can I ask you a question? Was there any time that the national standardization bodies have actually, or can they actually participate in funding some resources for a project?
Experts from national bodies?
Yes.
Oh, yes, they are free to apply everywhere to receive funding in order to participate.
Give that the other way. Eventually giving.
Sorry, my connection is bad, so I lost a lot of words. They Could you please repeat the question, Ricardo?
Yeah, sure. So the question is simple. It is, could, for example, the national standardization bodies actually contribute to finance the continuation of BlockStand? Not at the amounts of funding that is at the EU level, but
it depends on the policy of
in terms of a membership, for example.
It depends on the internal policy of each national body.
Mm-hmm.
And this is difficult to answer in general, but we can try to promote in some way that national standardization body has some, let's say, some specific discount policy on BlockStand experts. But what will be BlockStand experts after BlockStand is finished? So the question I wanted to ask is, will let's say the mark BlockStand remain and be attached to some structure? Could it be Digital SME? Could it be INATBA? Probably not SBS, but I'm thinking loud, I say, because if there exists some BlockStand brand attached to some structure, then some activities can be continued. Otherwise, it will be, so if BlockStand is disappearing and only the partners remain, it can become difficult to, let's say, focalize on activities, even if activity is not founded, but the mark of BlockStand will it be attached to one or more organizations? What will happen?
I think this is what we are discussing. Of course, and brainstorming at this point. I think the idea, and that's why the idea was to understand if it could be attached to the different partners, and eventually even open to other partners to enter. I have that more on the governance side. That is 2 slides below. The question of keeping the brand, I think it's important. We have 2 years if the project is to, if an activity is to continue after the funding is over, that the brand is kept, because it doesn't make sense otherwise. So we spend 2 years building that brand, and that's also part of the sustainability. I imagine the European Commission is in line with that as well. That the brand continues, and it represents this European values, of course, but the goals that we've been discussing here today.
Yeah, so let's consider that the partners sign an agreement stating that they will, for example, fund some basic costs like maintenance of the website. So we need on one hand to have a list of the costs, on the other hand to know who is going to participate to these costs, and so to keep a minimal, let's say, set of resources that can be named BlockStand and where experts can have a reference. So this means that BlockStand can be reused, for example, in case of national bodies, and say, okay, if we can create a sort of package and say, okay, if you have some, let's say, reserve some special condition to BlockStand experts, let's say, then you have something in some visibility, for example, as a counterpart, something like that. So let's say we need to create an offer, not necessarily a monetary offers, but an offer in the sense that, okay, our interest is to promote standardization. This means that if you can do something that help us to with our goals, we can give you something back to you, like visibility or whatever else. So that's where I want to come. And I think that one of the most important assets in terms of national standardization bodies is the roadmap, because the roadmap is a reference where they can say to their experts, okay, you can apply. If you apply for something that is in the roadmap, then I don't know, I grant you a lower price to participate. It's free of charge for some cases. I don't know, but this is something we can think about.
But so, in conclusion, in principle, it is possible, it is feasible that a national standardization body could support financially.
Not support financially, because I think there is no budget, but
that is
at
completely
least
out of the
to
table.
reduce the cost.
So that is completely out of the table.
Not completely, but I think that we need to verify with them. For instance,
I wanted to understand if that is a possibility, because today we are raising possibilities, right? We are trying to leverage that. So it is possible. I know that is a lot of procedures in terms of budget.
Potentially, yes, but there are very low percentage of acceptance from them.
Yeah, but it's also possible that a national standard body find a sponsor that is, let's say, with a strong brand. It's more easy to find sponsors and can facilitate, let's say, this sponsor to have experts working on something that the sponsor requires. So a company that want to have, typically a company, let's say, maybe not very small, but medium company, still have difficulties to have an expert dedicated to standardization. but can maybe pay something to have the advantage to have some to drive standardization in some field of interest. So it's a matter it's a way to let's say fill the gap between a potential sponsor of an activity and experts that can provide the work. The standardization body can be quite neutral in this in economical terms, but can facilitate because it has a network of knowledge at national level that can help to create this, to fill this gap.
Okay, but Andrea, you are speaking about a sponsor, a company sponsoring an expert, not the national standardization body, right? Funding.
Yes, this national standardization body can facilitate this.
Okay, but where does BlockStand play there?
It's because it creates a brand and help to. So there is a roadmap. There are initiatives. We can, let's say, create create connections. It's the BlockStand value is that it facilitates. So typically, national bodies are, let's say, passive. So if a company come to a national body and say, okay, I want to sponsor an activity, then this can happen.
Okay.
Yeah, indeed, I think also
help
do you
to,
see, Andrea, do you see blocks?
The sponsors, and then, yeah.
Do you see BlockStand as eventually a providing this kind of commercial approach in order to channelize eventual sponsorship for very specific standards work that a company is interested in developing?
Yeah. I think that many companies in working on blockchain are not really aware of standardization. BlockStand created some traction on this, and this can continue, in my opinion.
Okay. Okay, we already mentioned, I think, hopefully, and I will send you the presentation afterwards eventually. I think we haven't touched all the points that we could in terms of the value proposition, but we have to move forward in order to finish this first workshop on time. We already approached some financial ideas, and have basically 3 minutes for the financial possibilities. So you can go crazy on 3 minutes, and on governance. On the governance side, that I wanted to ask you as well. So in terms of financial solutions, the discussion that we were having with Andrea, perhaps that's a pointer, because I think it's important for all of us, that we don't have that much budget to actually support the continuation after the funding period is over. What type of products, and let me be clear here, products or what type of ways could we use to leverage the funds to cover the work? And I'm not saying it's much, or it's low, or it's high. Right now, I'm asking what type of funds could be leveraged. from the ones that you see already there. Membership fees, what's your take on that?
For me, it's not even the same because we spoke separately about each different asset. So it's perhaps not the same for all types of assets even.
No, but here is not, we are not actually putting a strategy attached to an asset, right? The asset is the overall proposition, the overall value proposition, right? It can be attached, of course, an idea can be attached to an asset, but it's not like we are trying to monetize each asset or coming up with different strategies for each asset, right? In the business side, this is the question is how do we make let me put this for a non-profit way, how can we gain money to cover our expenses?
Well, it also depends a bit because I think what we proposed to still do on these assets, once we spoke of, okay, how we should look like so that we become sustainable and so on, it does not include so many expenses per se, at least from what we put on the table until now, such as keeping the repository, making the form, and sometimes reviewing the form. I don't think we can charge for that membership fees or develop training based on that. Maybe somebody can if they want. For me, that simply becomes part of the services that we provide to our community anyway. So this becomes integrated to the services we give for members, and there is no separate membership fee for keeping the BlockStand assets, but this is generally acquired under umbrella of what European SMEs contribute to digital SME to have different services. And this is one of them, even if it's not reserved for members only, but open for all Europeans.
Okay. Any other opinions? Views, ideas? On a short note, I agree with what Justina said, but this is basically assuming that the strategy is maintaining what we have and not developing any further what will be that. So this is how I interpret, right? Which is fine. Again, we are deciding what to propose, but let's be clear, it's not on a developing lane, more on a maintaining what we have, because then we will look at maintaining costs and we'll decide if we want to be part or not. We will decide. Each partner will decide. Any other thoughts? Okay, if not, I would put a pin on it, and please, I will send you the documents. If you could, on your own, eventually some ideas, if you have any, write it down, send it back to me. I wanted to ask one final question before we close, which is in terms of governance. Two important questions here, and please bear with me if possible 2 or 3 more minutes. One is, should an alliance be created for this? An alliance, like, for example, should the possibility of the continuation of BlockStand could involve other partners, or should be something that is close to the four of us, or it should be selective? So that's the first question. The second question is, there was a concrete proposal, or a concrete idea, let's say it like this, to eventually a way in terms of structure that the project could move forwards, would be to be in a form of a DAO. How feasible and keen would you be? Veronica, I imagine this definitely would be something that you would need to consult on terms of this idea.
Just to brainstorm, at least in my opinion, I don't see any major issues of having more people utilizing our asset or having more partners that can leverage our activities and even expand what we did until now. But on the other part, at least for now, I do not see who could be potentially interested in joining us and also to invest time and possibly money.
National blockchain organizations, national blockchain associations, thinking of other groups that we were not the only ones to actually apply for this consortium. I'm thinking of C blocks. I'm thinking of potentially merging the features. So in terms, I see a lot of potential in terms of the stakeholders. In terms of the stakeholders, not individual ones, but the ones that are more eventually connected to the technical work.
Ricardo,
yeah, so
honestly, most of them I met, they were asking me how to start in standards, how standards work. So I don't really see many of them knowing the added value of standardization yet.
Probably
Like even the ones that were in the event in Darmstadt, they really did not know how standards work. So I had really longer discussions explaining.
Nordic blockchain conference, same, super active in blockchain, but still they need to see the value of standards. But I mean,
because we clearly see the value of blockchain and we want to understand how standards help to facilitate the uptake. But I don't think many of these national or especially regional clusters and so on are really able to, at the point where they understand the value of investing into standards tools.
I guess in our case, we can leverage a bit on the experts if they have SMEs or they're part of some organizations. This can be a resource, I think, and also the EMB experts, because of course they know about standardization and blockchain standardization. So,
yeah,
but in general, I do not see the value of keeping things restricted as a general line. But I mean, if you are convinced that other stakeholders can join in, maybe we can create value for them, and they would be interested to support us in the sustainability strategy. I don't see any problem.
This is Gabriele. This is participating at a governance level, at steering the project, the continuation of BlockStand, and we don't do, at least on our side, we don't do. It's the experts that provide the technical knowledge, and that. So our role is a coordination role. Our role is creating the tools or creating the ways, the means to actually to match the expertise of standards and leveraging the amplifying the knowledge So it's not on having experts, technical experts on standards at the governance level. It's about having a wider network in order to be able to a wider network than the four of us, to have more impact, right? Okay, on the because then we will not leave anytime soon. I wanted to ask you regarding the DAO. First thoughts, mainly that. Any thoughts?
Riccardo, I have no thoughts at the moment. I can agree, I do agree with Gabriele. So I don't see any kind of I don't know. I don't see advantage in keeping close this model afterwards, but yeah, we need to better see the future. So maybe after the meeting we will be able to share with you some other thoughts.
Okay.
Proposing thoughts.
Perfect. Veronica, on that note, if no one wants to add anything to that, I skipped completely the part about the platforms and tools where there was an idea as well. But if you all agree, we will adjourn for today. I will leave perhaps on Thursday that we can agree on the next workshop, where you will have already some comments on from this one, and you'll have also the presentation that I will send you. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions, or we can close? No other questions. So thank you so much. Thank you for the inputs. I think it was overall a very good session. I hope that you think that too. If not, mail me or something if there are other things that you want to put forward. Okay.
Thank you, Riccardo.
Thank you, Riccardo.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye.